to go away, whether it's by ship or train, by sea or air, whatever takes the people away from their home. The whole idea is that they will come back. And then when Newfoundlanders leave, wherever they go in the world, eventually it seems like Newfoundland calls them home. So I started to think about that theme, and I was wondering, well, what does that mean? What does come home mean? What is home? What is the values? And I really kind of stripped it right down to think about that. And I thought that, well, home is where the heart is. Home is where your love is. Home is where is the place you know. It's the land you're connected to. So I thought about these things, and then I tried to think a little bit deeper. So I thought maybe just like the way that salmon find their way upstream to their spawning grounds, Newfoundlanders, well, people in general, but Newfoundlanders in particular, have a little bit of a magnetic something inside of their mind that, like a salmon, that draws them back home. And maybe Newfoundland, or the rock itself, is like a magnetic field that draws them home from wherever they are in the world. So I took those metaphors and I stitched them together at the very beginning to create an image of a spinning Newfoundland nickel with the date 1893 on it to commemorate the date. But I also used the nickel. Well, so the nickel is spinning, and it's generating a magnetic field, like the Earth's magnetic field, which also speaks to other things too. I mean, when you speak about metaphor, it opens up your mind to possibilities. So it could also be talking about Newfoundland greeting the world at this very conference and drawing the attention of the world to this place. But I was thinking more along the lines of the action of the nickel spinning, creating a magnetic field that connects to the railway system as a vehicle for taking people away from home and bringing them back. So it's also like a visual phonetics, like pictographs, because one of the nicknames for the Newfoundland railway system was the nickel train, because it used to cost a nickel for people to go take the ride on the train. So you look over there, you see nickel, you see train, and your mind will, without thinking about it, your mind assembles that metaphor of nickel train. So then, as you go forward into the mural, it starts to tell the details about the story. There's an image of a man, probably a working man, looking back at his life, back at the work train, and the train reaching its destination towards a cargo ship at port, and perhaps also this very special train car, which was originally used to carry dignitaries to and from locations, but later on became a school train. And the reason it became a school train because the linesmen who worked in line, they had no access to any resources. They certainly couldn't get their children to school, so they used the train to bring the school to the children, and it became a school train. Wow. So the image of the train inside a book, like a pop-up book, sort of connects those two. And then as you move along, this area, this is sort of the central theme of the mural, this whole central area. So how many of you remember putting a penny on the tracks and or putting your ear to the tracks and listening for a train to come? So that's what's going on here. This boy here, he's listening to the tracks. He's listening for the train to come. He's listening for the train to bring his father home. As his father, as is the case, the railway.
I remember it well. I lost my nickel.
You noticed he only has one arm, didn't you?
The little boy?
Yeah. So he's listening for the train to bring his dad home. He may be bringing him home from the war or from work camp, which is sort of signified by the duffel bag and the bucksaw. But what he doesn't realize is that his dad's already home. So his dad's on the other side of the tracks, the wrong side of the tracks, and he's just flipping a coin towards his son. And he may be flipping him a depends on what you think. He may be flipping a nickel to him for a ride. Maybe he's flipping a penny towards him to put on the tracks. Or I kind of like to think maybe it's like a golden nugget of his experiences or something, or the life he experienced away from home that he's bringing back with him to share with his son. I kind of like to think of it like that, really. So of course, as you go along the mural, the next image you see past the buck saw, and which is really like a real symbol for the whole purpose function of the railway system, because it was really used to carry lumber to and from. You're
gonna have to hit the other corner.
Sit on this one.
No, this one. So yeah, so the buck saw, and the duffel bag are really like two symbols for two of the prime operations of the railway system. The buck saw was the work train, because lumber was like the major industry, and the railway system was predominantly used to carry the raw material from the forest to the manufacturing facility, the paper mill, and then from the paper mill to port, which is really what brought it to Botwood. And then there's a small vignette of the bridge itself at the end of the line. There you have sort of an image of what you might think, like when your loved ones are leaving or coming away. Sort of that iconic war imagery of people being separated and reunited, kind of a vignette. So the last portion of the mural is really about the conclusion of the railway system, sort of the end of the line, which there's actually an end of the line bumpers at the end of the mural. The last image shows the last train being pulled off the rails. That's like, I think it was in 1988?
9, he said, I think.
Or 89?
Yeah.
So everyone from this area remembers the last train. And in fact, they probably remember that train more than any other image in the mural. I had one fella here stop, and he told me that every single part of the mural was part of his life experience. From the old number 9 train, which ran the Botwood line, engine number 9 going down the Botwood line was actually what they used to say, to the last train.
It's a blues song.
To his time, he was actually involved in a lot of the things that happened throughout the whole history of the railway system. And then at the end of the line, is the end of the line ever really the end of the line? Not really. Everything becomes something else. So what happened to the railway system after they decommissioned the entire railway system was it became a province-long trail, a T-rail, a trail. So the last portion I worked into the mural is, I call them the Newfoundlands, the Newfoundland pony, the Newfoundland dog, and the Newfoundland people sort of witnessing the end of the line and experiencing the trail as almost like it's reverting back to its original state as a trail. And of course the story of the Newfoundland pony is really tied into that. The Newfoundland pony is a special breed which was used to build the railway system. It was used as the means of transportation before the railway system, and then it became a means of experiencing Newfoundland on a trail system after the railway was decommissioned. And that horse in particular, that horse is named Ginger, and Ginger was a horse that was ridden by an American woman across the entire length of the railway line from Port aux Basques all the way to St. John's, about it was the 80s again, or the 90s, right after the trail was formed.
Finished?
Yeah. And that's it. And that's the end of the line.
What I like is that the Newfoundland dog is life-size, right?
Yeah.
We saw one last night.
Yes.
I know.
Nice doggy.
We're from here, my wife and I.
Yes.
But I also remember, and maybe someone told you this, but there used to be on the railway line a repair cart, and there'd be an handle down this end, and it'd be probably 6 foot. And we'd get on it, one swing up.
Oh, the rail
that would make
cart.
it. Yeah, that would make it move.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But all of a sudden you'd look and you'd be watching for the men at work, and they'd come running to get the hell out of there. So you knew that we were so young, you know, we could go like bastards.
You were just giving her.
Yeah, we'd wait till they get right to the cart, and then boom, down. Young Dean, you better not do
But
that.
they knew you, right? That's the problem. You were not in the local.
At the very end.
The white building at the end. The white building at the end is an image of the paper mill from Grand Falls, Windsor. So, so the paper mill was, of course, that was a key link in the whole system, and so I sort of have it rendered in two phases, which sort of the timeline is off because I have an image of the whole paper mill, and then I have an image of the big stack being deconstructed, which was kind of another defining moment at the end of the line, in a manner of speaking. And all of the people from the area remember that because it was an enormous brick stack, like enormous. And everyone was wondering, how are they going to tear that down? Are they going to implode it? But they actually wound up taking it down brick by brick and reusing all the bricks.
From the bottom or the top?
From the top.
Good question.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be much faster if they took it from the
Right
bottom.
in the middle.
Would have been a lot faster. So I thought it was kind of suitable to have
All
that.
right.